Hey, how's it going, folks? So in today's video, I want to pass on to you some lessons learned that I have learned the hard way about hook set mechanics, especially for snakehead fishing. Snakehead are unique in that snakehead have extremely hard mouths, very powerful head shakes, death rolls. Moral of the story being, you have to do everything you can in your power to put a solid hook set into these fish. And I'm going to break down the different parts of the hook set to hopefully help you increase your hookup ratio, because there was once a time, especially when I was frog fishing for snakehead, that my hookup ratio was absolute trash. And you can see it in some clips like these right here.
Done studies, 60% of the time it works every time.
Oh, gotcha. Ooh.
I can't take it no more.
But with that being said, you don't have to live in that world. You don't have to live with that many misses, and I'm going to show you how you can avoid them. When I go to set the hook on a snakehead with a frog, of course, you want to make sure they have it. And to do that, you gently lift your rod tip. See if you see that frog. See if you feel resistance. If you do still see the frog, of course, keep it in the strike zone. If you don't, reel down till you feel that weight. Make sure they have it. And that's when you're going to go to step 2. And this is what I call proper position. This is crucial. If you try to set the hook, I don't care if it's spinning rod or bait caster, if you try to set the hook with just your arms and not have any way to support the butt of your rod by bracing it against your body, you're putting all that pressure on just your arms. And even if you're a strong guy, it's a lot to ask of yourself. Your wrist, your forearm, all that stuff can bend or flex at the wrong moment. And when that snakehead starts thrashing, especially if it's a big one, a lot of times it's going to result in you losing that fish. So I'm going to show you some video clips here of proper form on the hook set, and I'll show them to you in slow motion. But here's the bottom line key that I've found, and that has to do with the butt of the rod right here, okay? You want to take that and couch it right here in your armpit, because at that point, there's no way to flex this. You now have the entire weight and stability of your torso supporting that rod on the hook set. So yes, you can still exert a lot of strength with your body and your bicep through your forearm. You can exert a lot of pressure, and there's nowhere for this rod to go. It's pulling down, and all it's going to do is drag farther and farther into your armpit in terms of where that weight is going to be supported from.
Yes. Yes, yes, yes. That's a good one, y'all. That's a good one. Get in there. Yes, that's a very good one. Heck yeah.
Come.
Yes. Oh. Stay on there. Stay on there. That's a better fish. Heck yeah. That's a big one, y'all. That's a big fish.
Another thing that I do, aside from the brace and supporting, is I start low, I take up the slack, and then I go from almost pointing at the fish all the way up, and I high stick the heck out of my hook sets. You can see it here in the video. Since I started doing this with my bigger frogs like your Teckle Honker, Teckle Maracker, my hookup ratio has gone through the roof. But that's not all. Let's hit a few more points here. If you haven't seen it yet, one of my most popular videos is my frog fishing for snakehead tips video. There's a lot of great tips in there. Make sure you watch it. But one I will reiterate here has to do with the angle of the hooks on your frog. What you want is something like this frog right here. This is a sneck frog from American Snakehead Customs. And you can see straight out of the pack that these hooks sit pointing slightly upward. That is crucial. Some frogs, when they come out of the pack, will point slightly downward. That is a no-go. You want to take a pair of pliers and gently tune those points to face slightly up and then slightly outside from the body of the frog. Not too much, or you won't be able to use that frog in heavy cover. It's going to snag on everything. But bend those hooks. If they don't come out of the pack correctly, bend those hooks slightly up and outward. The sneck frog comes out of the pack just like that. So do my frogs like the Acor, the Teckle, and lots of others out there, but not all. You got to check that kind of thing. Aside from that, you want to make sure that you have one of these. a fishing file, because I just tuned it in on this frog right here. So I'll probably overlay some video that I just used with it. But sometimes, whether it's from the hook getting snagged on top of rocks or trees or structure, or just the hard mouths of snakehead, the very tip points, the very tips of those points on the hooks will bend slightly up or down or form a burr or something like that. Moral of the story being, you're not going to get as good penetration as you would if you take that file and take those hook points and just file them until you have a nice sharp hook point. And if you test the sharpness of that point before and after you file, not only will you see a difference, you will feel a difference too. And that will also increase your hookup ratio. Now, a few other things about the gear you're using to increase your hookup ratio. On the drag system, when you're fishing for snakehead, in my opinion, you don't want anything less than 16 to 18 pounds of drag. There are some reels out there, one which I plan on trying, like the Cast King Deadbolt, which doesn't even have a drag system. That thing ain't going nowhere. And I think that's a great rig, especially for kayak fishing, because there are some applications where you want a little bit of drag slippage, especially if you're fishing from shore with a little bit lighter line. Otherwise, you can break that fish off right on the hook set. But in a kayak, in my opinion, I think a deadbolt is probably going to be great, because in a kayak, you have to keep in mind that you want zero stretch and zero give, because especially if it's a big fish, when you set that hook, your kayak's going to move towards that fish, and that's going to take away some of your power. So keep that drag locked down. Make sure you have at least, I'd say, 16 to 18 pounds of drag. Otherwise, you're going to feel that slip and often result in losing that fish. On that same note, I prefer braid for frog fishing for multiple reasons. One is that it cuts through vegetation much better. Two is that it has much less stretch, and that less stretch really comes in handy, especially when you're in a kayak, because again, that kayak's going to move towards that fish when you set that hook. I suppose the last thing I'll hit on right here in terms of hook set mechanics, again, touches on gear, and that comes in with your rod. This right here is a Katylin Custom, but getting down to the specs of it, this is a 7'2", and this is a extra heavy, extra fast tip. You don't want to have a lot of flex in that tip when you're frog fishing on snakehead, because you need, again, everything you can have in your corner to make sure you have as little stretch, as little give as possible, so you can drive those points home. If you're curious about line, I am very partial to Berkley X9 and X5. There are some other great braids out there that my buddies use, different kinds of Cast King braid, and a few others out there as well. But for right now, I think I'm going to go ahead and sign off. I've hit the key points I wanted to hit, and I hope they help you land more fish, especially snakehead on topwater frogs, on the water. If you enjoyed this kind of tutorial through hook set mechanics, let me know by clicking that like button, sharing, and subscribing, and I will see you on the next one. Good luck, y'all.